So welcome to the show, Mike Goldman. Everybody will know you from everything. In fact, most people probably don't even realize how much you are everywhere. I mean, you're synonymous with Big Brother. We know you as the Big Brother guy, but you also voice over everything from ads, and you do radio and TV and film, and, you know, you get around, Mike.
Are you saying I'm a media whore?
Well, look, I mean, those
You're
are your
right.
words.
Correct.
So where did it all start for you? Because I know you had showbiz parents and, you know, I guess like me, my parents were a psychiatrist and a psychologist. So I had no chance of being anything other than a therapist. So I guess your path was laid out for you a little bit in the same way. So can you tell
So
us a
this is
little
like
bit?
a free therapy session, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So where do you want
Should
to
I be
start?
lying on my back? Oh, well, it all started when I was a little boy and my mum and dad worked in TV and radio, and mum was the weather girl at Channel 7 and dad was the radio announcer at 5AD, and we were growing up in Adelaide, and I was growing up in Adelaide. You know, that was really where I decided I wanted to be in this world of making shows, making stuff, entertaining people. And the older I got, I realized that the world needed it more because, you know, it's good to take your focus away from the horrible stuff that's going on in the world and get a little escape. And
100%.
that's something that I've always done, whether it's acting or hosting Friday Night Live, big shows, or whatever it is. It feels like it's part of my purpose in life to entertain, do shows, you know, play in bands, do a stage play, a movie, whatever it might be.
So were you always performing even as a kid? Like were you in, you know, the school productions and all of those
Yeah.
kinds of things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's Little Shop of Horrors or Grease Lightning or Oklahoma stage play or any of that stuff, I was always up for it. And you know, I got a little role in Home and Away when I was about 14 or 15, and I'd be doing commercials. Like I remember I did a Topex commercial, and I had to say on it, "Simone just called me zit face." And then that's all anyone ever said to me at school whenever they spoke to me.
Oh no. Oh my God. Of all the ads you could have done.
But hey, you know, I think I got paid something like $500, which
Nice.
I spent on Star Wars action figures.
Oh, excellent. Do you still have them to this day?
No, I think
No.
I either chewed them up or lost them somewhere in the bathtub.
Damn. So they weren't the collector's items ones. No.
Well, they might have been. I don't know. Never been one to keep hold of things for very long. I was a minimalist from a very early age.
Oh, you're ahead of the times. So, you know, people will definitely know you from Big Brother. That's certainly how I know you. And I was a huge fan right from the beginning. Although admittedly, I didn't watch the 2020 version. I just sort of felt an allegiance to the old guard and just, you know, didn't
The
get
old
involved.
school.
Yeah. Yeah.
I totally know where you're coming from because I felt exactly the same way until they hired me. I was lucky enough to work with Channel 7 on something called The Big Bro Show, which was giving, you know, daily updates in a comical kind of way about what had been going on in the Big Brother house, and it looks like we're going to be doing that all over again.
Fantastic. So what's your take on the new, I guess, the way that they're doing it now? Because it's not that sort of organic social experiment that it started off as. It's now much more of a kind of savvy reality TV production. So what are your thoughts on the two styles?
Well, if you go back and you watch Big Brother 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, you are sort of drawn in like it's a long sort of segment, and you're trying to listen to the conversations, and you got time to put things together, and it's dragged out, but you're drawn in because it's something that back then it was not on television. No one had done reality TV before. Big Brother was the first, and then years and years later, there's so many entertainment formats out there. There's so many different reality shows. Even when we're watching reality shows, we're still getting pinged by our phones saying, hey, you might want to do this now. And too many distractions. So I think the new format of Big Brother works really well for today's society and the way our culture is, where you just get it all edited. It's like it's edited not to make it look different as to what's actually happened in the house, but edited to just get the facts, get the highlights, what's actually happened. Who are these people? I want to understand it, but I want to get to the point a little bit quicker. And I think that's definitely what the show does now.
Yeah, I guess in the beginning they were sort of learning on their feet, weren't they? Because it hadn't really been done in Australia before. So you sort of had this, these unlikely stars that were coming out of it before social media. And then, the shows were evolving. Like you were given your show Up Late, which, everybody knew that was like the main show. That's what you wanted to watch.
Yes, of course.
No one really cared what they were doing during the day. We all wanted to see what they were doing at night,
Yeah. Yeah, what mischief were they getting up to? Unless, of course, when they're asleep and I still had to sit there and talk about them while they're asleep. That got weird.
Yes, I remember quite a few nights like that. But then you'd make it interactive, wouldn't you? You'd have people like calling in or...
Yeah.
I feel like messages were coming through. Yeah. Yeah. Hot Dogs made a few appearances.
The latest evictee from the house would always come on the show. And I mean, I remember when Hot Dogs came on the show, he was one of the first to get evicted, so he was a regular guest. So if you got evicted in the first couple of weeks of Big Brother, the good news was you got to be a regular guest on Mike Goldman's Big Brother Up Late show and really show your wares. And if you're a bit of a comedian, you might have a chance at a radio or a TV show. And they gave Hot Dogs a TV show on Channel 10, or the Hot Dogs Up Late, the Up Late game show or something like that.
Yeah.
Which they did, funny enough, ask me to host. And I'm like, I don't want to just do a late game show, or, when there's no sort of housemates going on or some sort of other entertainment. And Channel 9 actually called me up as well, because they ripped off the idea of Big Brother Up Late, and they did a show with Nikki, the comedian, Nikki Wilson. Anyway, she and Brody, I think his name was, which was just like a Up Late game show, but without the house. And they asked me to do that, and I said, what do you want me to do? And do you want me to audition? And they said, you need to come in and do an audition. I'm like, you can just put the TV on tonight and you can watch what I'm doing, because it's what you're stealing. So their show went for about 2 years, and my show went for about 5 or 6, I think, doing Up Late. And then I got too busy with Friday Night Live and doing the Daily Show. We had another show called The Eye on Big Brother, and because I would get in there at about 9 o'clock in the morning, do the Daily Show voiceovers, and then I'd do Friday Night Live, which we'd have rehearsals from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd finish that at about 9:30. I'd have an hour break, and then I'd have to host 3 hours of Big Brother Up Late.
Oh my God.
So essentially I was doing 5 hours of live TV in one night. So it got a bit much. So we ended up canning Up Late. I think it was the last year it was with Channel 10, and Channel 9 didn't pick up Big Brother Up Late, and Channel 7's basically a tied up writer version altogether. But there is talk of doing other shows around the new series, and fingers crossed I get to be on one of those shows.
Absolutely. And fingers crossed for all the fans as well, because, as I said, Mike Goldman is synonymous with Big Brother. And I know that that's the kind of draw card that brings the old fans back in, is having you hosting the show, having, familiar feels to the old format that we were all so into. Well, I was going to ask you, you were involved, when you say Up Late ended, was that around the time that, John Howard was getting involved and there was the whole scandal?
I think that was in 2008 was the last year on Channel 10, but I think it was 2006 when John Howard said, get that stupid show off television.
Yeah, and he was our Prime Minister at the time.
That's good publicity.
Absolutely. You've got a hit show when the Prime Minister's commenting on it.
Who would want to watch a show that the Prime Minister would want to watch? What's he watch, Four Corners or something? Boring.
Look, that does have some excellent programming sometimes. I have to admit.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
So,
we all pay for it, so we have to watch it.
Well, that's true. That's true. And so, you did go along to with all the channel changes and host changes. Is there a particular series for you that you think was like the glory years when you were working on the show?
Glory years.
Mm.
There's always, I think it was 2003. That was the year Fitzy and Bree were in the house. 2003 or 4. So many. Yeah, it's like 18 years ago, 17 years ago. So I'm trying to remember. But there was Trevor in the house, and he was the first contestant to ever win $1 million cash.
That's right.
For going on Big Brother, and all he did was hide in the corner the whole time, and everyone forgot he was there, and he ended up winning because it was a vote them off thing, and people were just voting off the person who they couldn't stand, and they went, "Who else is there? Oh, that guy. What? He won? Oh, okay." And then I got to. They asked me, which housemates were my favorite, and who'd I like working with, because we're putting together this show called Friday Night Live, and from the last season, the obvious choice was Brie Amer, because she, as a prize for coming second, she won a trip to Noumea, and we became friends after the series. And she couldn't take her mum at the last minute, and called me if I wanted to go on her trip with her to Noumea. Wow. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. Yeah, why not? I don't know. And years later, I'm thinking, okay, that was probably pretty wrong. I probably should have gone with a contestant who was on the show's prize to Noumea.
Yeah.
But Bree and I are still friends to this day. I'm sure if I told anyone that around a year or two after, I probably would have got sacked. But probably not. But we're friends, and it was cool. So I think that year when we had Fitzy and Bree, and Fitzy was, the funniest housemate we've ever had, alongside probably, Marty, who's, remember Marty and Jess? Marty was hilarious, country bumpkin bloke.
Yeah.
And Australia just took a real liking to him.
Absolutely.
And I thought he was hardly done by having to get voted off when he did. And there was the whole drama about his mates making T-shirts so that they could raise money to vote him to stay on the show.
That's right.
But he was great fun and had a big following, so we thought, let's give it a crack with Fitzy, or Frizy as we used to call him back then. But now he's Fitzy, Ryan Fitzgerald. But he's had a brilliant media career after that, as have a lot of Big Brother housemates like Chrissy Swan.
Yep.
Wes Denning, who was on Bree and Fitzy's year. He's probably the most successful in the TV world. You might have forgotten about him, but they called him the school principal. But he's one of the most successful TV producers to ever come out of Australia now.
Wow.
He's making award-winning shows in the US, and is behind the new series Holy Moly on Channel 7.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And so for you working on the show and spending so many hours as you were, enmeshed in the show, and with, doing 5 hours of live TV plus going and doing all the voiceover work and everything, how did you separate I just imagine you must have been totally consumed with the show. Like, were you invested?
I just sleep there.
Yeah.
I did. Sometimes I'd sleep in my dressing room, especially if we were working till late at night, and I had to be back there in the morning at like 6:30 a.m. for an interview on a morning show somewhere. And I figure, well, it's only 4 or 5 hours till I've got to be back here, so there's no point driving from Dreamworld back to Brisbane or the Gold Coast or wherever I was staying.
Yeah.
So it's that 3 months of just immersing yourself in the show and knowing every single part of it, so that you can spread the word and promote it better than anyone else or as good as anyone else that's working on the show.
Absolutely. And how do you feel about reality TV now? Because I know that you've, with your podcast as well, you've spoken with a lot of reality TV contestants, let's call them. And, you know the ins and outs better than anyone. Has your perspective on reality TV changed over the years?
I think a lot of people go on reality TV now, not necessarily because they don't know what they're getting themselves into, just because they know what they're getting themselves into, and they want to get a following. They want to use it to catapult their acting career or their media career, or just build up their Instagram following and turn that into a business. And it has done that for so many people in their reality world. I mean, especially the current hit shows like Married at First Sight and Love Island. I mean, those guys, they go on that show and they'll go from 10 followers to 10 million. And all of a sudden, they're making a hell of a lot of money. How long that lasts for, who knows? They just got to keep milking it for as long as they can.
Well,
so it has changed a lot. I mean, and I think reality TV producers know that now, and they know how hard it is to find people. So rather than just putting on an audition and getting all the wannabes there, I think the better way for reality TV shows is to set up in shopping malls and, go actually looking for people and, go to schools, go to businesses, go to workplaces and ask people who's the most annoying person here? Who's the funniest person here? Okay, we want you two on a show,
Old school
Real people.
scouting.
Go to scout.
Yeah.
And there are some really good scout agencies around. I think one's called the Cast of Thousands. And you can actually log onto their website and put down your details to be on a reality show, because they do casting for a lot of different shows. But I don't know. I think that way is obviously the old school way, and that works for a lot of different formats. But I think that that to find those real people that are gold, you really got to get out there and search yourself.
Yeah.
Which is what casting does as well. I guess they do that as well.
Yeah, but I guess it's hard, isn't it? If, the pool that you're selecting from is mostly the same kinds of girls on Instagram who are looking for a particular thing, and they look the same and they sound the same. And, we see them in every series of every show, everywhere in the world. So, I guess what you're saying makes more sense, that, you're more likely to get real people who are entertaining to watch because they've got real stories and real reactions to things in that old school casting sense.
Yeah, definitely. And there's enough of them out there that want to be on these shows, so they'll keep making them as long as people keep watching them.
That's it, exactly. And hopefully they keep hiring you while they're at it.
Fingers crossed. I'll keep riding this gravy train as long as I can. It's been 21 years. My God.
Wow.
It's crazy to be part of a show that has been going for 21 years with a couple of little breaks in between networks.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. I don't think there's ever been another show in Australian TV history that's bounced across 3 networks. What do we got after Channel 7? I guess we go to SBS. At least we can have more nudity.
Correct. Plenty of that on SBS, exactly. And you've been hosting your podcast On the Mic for the last 5 years. And you talk to not just famous people, but also everyday people who have got, really interesting stories to tell. What have been some of the highlights for you? I know it's so hard when people ask who've been the best guests, but have you got any people that spring to mind?
Obviously I've spoken to a lot of the major housemates, Big Brother housemates over the years, and hosts, whether it's Sonia Kruger or Gretel Colleen. I think Sam Mack was a great interview that I did. He played a song. We talked about his incredible career. Who else have I spoken to that was really good on the mic? There's so many. I've spoken to spider experts. I spoke to a guy about time travel a while back, although he asked me just yesterday to take the podcast down because I cracked too many jokes in it, and he's taking his time travel very seriously, and he thinks he won't be able to get a job in any physics department anywhere in the world because I'm making jokes about Back to the Future, and a lot of nerds making comments on the show down below saying, oh, this is an opportunity missed. Who is this Muppet? He's just taking the piss. We want to know. And I asked him serious questions as well, but just at the start, I was having fun with him. But he didn't really want to have fun.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But most of them have been great. The rest of them have been awesome.
Well, it's a shame, that he hasn't figured out how to go back in time, because maybe he could have refused to do the interview.
That's what I should have said. Go back in time, dude, and don't do the interview. That's what you need to do. And another guy I interviewed, Jonesy, he was great. He's an adventurer, and he paddled a canoe from New Zealand to Australia.
Wow.
And he also walked across the Simpson Desert with his wife and 3-year-old kid over the space of a few weeks. And he's a crazy adventurer. That was a good one. I've spoken to Bridget Burt. She's a great stunt woman and jetpack, right? There's people who have jets strapped to their feet and from the back of a jet ski, and she does stunts and flips and everything like that. Wow. She's a world champion at doing that kind of stuff. She was really good. Judd Wild, who's the world stuntman of the year. He did all the stunts in the Mad Max movies. He was great. Damien Tomlinson, who's a double amputee who went to Afghanistan and Iraq and lost his legs.
Wow.
That was pretty intense. So many. Go to onthemic.com and you can see them all.
So what makes a good interview for you? What is it that hooks you in?
Someone with a good story to tell who isn't afraid to share a bit of their soul, pour their heart out, to tell the juicy details of a story plus how they feel about it. And I think if you just, like Andrew Denton used to have a show called Enough Rope, which basically means he gives someone enough rope they're going to hang themselves. But I didn't want anyone to do that. I just wanted them to be able to feel comfortable to talk about their story and their life and who they are and where they're going and something that they went through. I remember when I first started doing podcasts, the head of a podcast network at one of the radio stations, I won't say who it was or where it was, but they said to me, your podcasts are great. I listened to the last few and I really like them, but they go way too long. They need to be 5 minutes, short, sharp, sweet, mate. Just straight to the point. That's what it's got to be, because that's what people want to hear. Radio people know exactly what it's supposed to be. Short, sharp, punchy, to the point. You got to do that, mate. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think so. I think that's what radio is. But I think if people are interested in something, they'll listen to it and they want to get to the bottom of the story, not knowing that they're going to be cut short because they're going to play a commercial break or a song that they didn't even request. Yeah. So radio's got its place, and I think podcasts do as well. And as a completely different format and different medium. I mean, there's going to be podcasts that are short and punchy, and there are going to be some that like to have a proper conversation and sort of get to know who someone is and examine subjects in depth. And Joe Rogan does that, even though he's stoned off his brain most of the time when he does it. And he calls himself a moron, but I don't think he's a moron. I think he's actually a really smart guy because he started his podcast off the back of working with the UFC, and that's one of the most popular sports in the world. Instantly had such a huge following, not just from his stand-up comedy stuff, and it's just exploded to be the biggest show in the world. And they go for sometimes 2-3 hours. Wow. Depending on how much weed he's I haven't had any today. I've been fasting, actually. You ever done that?
No. I've
only just started, and I actually think I like it.
Yeah.
I downloaded this app to tell me when I could eat, when I couldn't, and it's just a sign of getting old. I don't know. But I've just stopped eating since last night at 6, and I haven't eaten yet. And this morning I felt like I wanted breakfast, but now I feel like I've got a lot of energy.
Oh wow!
More than usual. It's bizarre. Maybe my body's in survival mode, and I'm looking for animals to eat or something. I have no idea.
Maybe. Can you have coffee, or is it absolutely nothing?
Just water.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm going to try and do that 2 or 3 times a week and see what happens.
Well, you have to keep us posted.
How did I get here?
So, we're talking about podcasts and that format, and that you've been enjoying doing your show, for as long as you have. Have there been any, what would you say there's been one, interview that hasn't gone well, and that, you find yourself just in a situation where you sort of can't get out of, or it's just very awkward or uncomfortable,
Yeah. But it was probably made awkward and uncomfortable by me as well. It hasn't been on any of my On the Mic shows. It's when I was on Triple M, I was doing a show in Brisbane at 104.5 Triple M Brisbane, and Slash from Guns N' Roses came in, and we were just chatting away. It was one of the best interviews I've ever done. He's talking about Guns N' Roses. He's talking about his life when he was on the road, and how he's just trying to stay sober and stay clean, and just to keep a straight mind and look after himself. And then he pulls out a joint and starts rolling it. And then someone brings him a bottle of Jack Daniels, and he's drinking and smoking both. And he's like, "You want some?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." It's Slash. I mean, I don't normally. And so I'm drinking and smoking weed with Slash, and I've never had a joint before in my life.
Oh my God.
And this is live on national radio. And then all of a sudden my brain just started spinning a bit, and I realized that I was playing commercials, I was talking and playing music at the same time.
Oh, no.
So the interview was supposed to go for about 15 minutes and it went for 4 hours. So
Oh my God.
the last 15 minutes was a bit messy.
Did you keep your job after that?
Yeah, I did. I got a promotion, actually.
Oh, nice.
It was a rock radio network. How could they not
True.
promote you after doing something like that?
True. That was what do I call it? Almost like the method acting version of rock interviews.
I put the meth in method acting. Yes.
Now, speaking of weed, and well, it's not quite the same, but I heard you talking in a couple of your podcasts actually about CBD, and how that's been helpful, or it was helpful with your dad when he was unwell. That's something that's sort of still slowly unfolding here in Australia. Obviously, in other parts of the world, it's well and truly an accepted method of healthcare and all of that. So what are your thoughts?
Because you've still got politicians like Barnaby Joyce who are blocking it in the Senate. And Barnaby Joyce, I've met him a few times. I mean, obviously he's had his ups and downs in his political career, but I thought he seemed like a guy who would have his wits about him and see that there's people in his electorate, and I've met people, and my mum lives in his electorate, who have benefited from having CBD oil, and some of them claim that it has helped them get through their cancer journey like it did help my father. I mean, there's people out there that are making, I wouldn't say outlandish claims, but they're pretty massive claims that certain cannabinoids can cure certain cancers. I have met a lady who was in Tenterfield who was, only given months to live, and she went off all the chemo and the radiation, and she was doing CBD oil and certain cannabinoids, and within 6 months, completely gone.
Wow.
She told her doctor, and the doctor said, "Well, what do you want me to do about it?" It's like, I don't deal with that stuff. It's illegal, and thanks, and glad you're okay. And she was disgusted by that. And so she sort of started this underground network where she let everyone know what she did and where to get it so that she could help other people, because she couldn't understand why a doctor wouldn't say, "Well, how'd you do this? This is amazing. Oh, I've got to tell the world." This smelly old GP just decided to go, "Oh, you know what? Well, that's great. Good on you. Catch you later. Next patient." And I think there's far too many GPs out there in Australia that people put their entire health, they trust him for their health, and they're making a big mistake, because they're not all good. There's a lot of GPs out there that are just hopeless. They went to medical school like 30 years ago, and they're still preaching the same shit. If I was going to go to GP, I want to go to a young GP that knows straight out of med school and has at least learnt all the most recent stuff. And with Google Doctor and everything happening, other people can go to a doctor and Google stuff before they go in. And I've had it before. I've had a medication that I needed to get, and I knew what I needed it for, and the GP didn't even know about it. And he's trying to prescribe something from like 20 years ago.
Wow.
So it does pay to do your own research, as much as mechanics and doctors hate it, because we all go in with our own opinion and how to sort things out. But I've just met so many people since then who have had so many great things happen in their lives because they've found a certain cannabinoid or CBD that has helped them with a medical problem. Like Jason Jordan, who is the head of the Medicinal Marijuana Foundation of Australia. He's in Western Australia, and he has multiple sclerosis, and he was a non-functioning human. He was at home in bed all day, and then he found a certain kind of cannabis. He's a functioning human now. He's running this foundation, and he's making a living out of helping people understand and campaigning for medicinal marijuana. He's done a great job so far.
Amazing. Yeah,
that was a pretty good interview. That's up on the mic as well.
Great. Well, I will definitely be putting a link to your website and the show in the show notes, so people can definitely get involved and have a listen to those episodes. But it is really interesting because one of the things that we know about, or that the research says about this CBD kind of revolution, is that at the very least it can help people manage the anxiety that they might have around, you know, a serious diagnosis like cancer or MS, as you said. And if nothing else, managing the anxiety would give your body a chance to repair, because it's not burning all that energy, feeling stressed and anxious and scared and all the rest. You're actually able to rest and your body take over and do the job that it needs to do. So, you know, even from a psychological...
My wife has had problems with anxiety her whole life, and I think even her dad has had a certain level of anxiety, and she's got CBD oil, and like she got an audition or something like that. She's an actor, or something's freaking her out, then she's fine after a couple of drops of CBD. It's a leaf that's turned into a liquid, and it's helping people out. Like, I don't understand what the holdup is. I mean, sure, there's going to be people who overdo it and they use it as a party drug, or they do way too much. You can't OD on it.
Yeah.
So I have no idea why our government won't just let it slide through. I mean, people take too much sugar and too much Coca-Cola and turn into fat, obese freaks that the government have to pay billions of dollars to help. I mean, you don't want to ban something, ban sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, there's so many other things like alcohol. Obviously, I mean, people get, you know, right. I know, I've done it. I've written myself off on alcohol. I mean, you've just got to know how to do things in moderation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, my understanding is as well that the THC levels are so low in the CBD oil that, you know, we're not talking about people going and getting stoned off their heads. You know, it's controlled.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So you know, just got to do it within moderation. That's all.
You've had a long career as a host and, you know, in the entertainment industry for a long time, but we all know that a life in the arts can also be a very difficult one. And what would you say to people who are thinking about getting into the industry? And, you know, we know particularly over this COVID period, the arts industry has really suffered, and probably the jobs are thin on the ground, and there's a lot more competition now with lots of people doing their own thing online. So, in fact, maybe the question is really, how do you manage in this changing landscape? What's that like for you?
Well, before COVID, it's like a roller coaster ride. It's got its ups and downs. I mean, I've been fired and hired by almost every radio station and TV network in the country. And, you know, it always sucks when something comes to an end, and sometimes it doesn't suck as much. But you've got to really learn to roll with the punches. And I learned that from an early age, because auditioning for TV shows and, you know, commercials or whatever I might have done as a kid, you're going to get a lot of knockbacks, and you just got to be prepared to be able to deal with those knockbacks. And it depends what industry it is. I mean, if you're going to be an actor, TV presenter, you know, voiceover person, I guess, like I am, you've just got to have your irons in a few fires, like have something else on the side that you can make money out of until you actually get to do your dream job. And I know if you're working in a cafe and you really want to be an actor, you're probably thinking this job sucks and you don't know how to stop being grumpy and hating the world. You've just got to link your crappy job to your dream job by saying to yourself every day, I'm doing this because I'm going to be one of the best actors in the world. I'm doing this because I'm just putting food on the table, because this is going to happen in my future. But you've got to have a good group of friends around you who are like-minded and understanding what you want to do and where you're coming from. I mean, I've got friends and family, for that matter, who in the past their parents have said, you're choosing the wrong career, you need to go and do this or that to make money, and you're not good enough. And it's really hard when you know in your heart of hearts that that's what you want to do for a living, and then all of a sudden you can't do it because the ones you love are telling you not to. So you just got to surround yourself with like-minded people, I think, and positive people. It's far too often people surround themselves with the same people that they grew up with just because they think that's the way life is. But you don't have to have those people in your life. Weed out the people who are negative. You do not need them.
Very good advice. I think that one is a really hard place to get to for a lot of people. A lot of people are committed to friendships because of longevity and not necessarily because those people are good for them, or have their best interests at heart. Or you kind of, I mean, I think as people, we're evolving all the time. So it's not such a strange thought that, you know, your friendships evolve and that, you know, you might need to move on from some people eventually.
How do you know if someone has your best interests at heart, though? And when you've known someone for so long and you love them and care about them, and it's hard to say, right, I got to, you know, either cut them off or just not return their calls straight away. I mean, what would you recommend being the best way when you get involved with those people to be able to just go, you know what, I might just sort of back away here?
Well, you know, I think it's like you were saying, you don't necessarily have to have like a breakup with somebody as a friend, you know, but I think, you know, when the energy exchange is off and when you feel like you're more drained coming away from a conversation with somebody instead of nourished and inspired, then I think that's probably a really good indicator that that relationship isn't working, and that friendship isn't working. Right. And, you know, maybe that does just mean not answering the call as frequently and not spending as much time with that person. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to cut them out, but maybe it just means
don't start a war.
Yeah.
Because some people are like that. They, you know, you don't get back to them straight away, or haven't spoken to them for a month or two. It's like you turn into the enemy. I mean, I don't know if this is true, but do you notice that more with girls more than guys?
Yeah, I think so. I think also the test of a true friendship is how long you can go without seeing each other and that not being a problem. You know, some of my oldest and dearest friends I won't speak to for months and months. And then we catch up and it's like no time has passed. No one's judging each other for being busy or having other things going on. We're just picking up where we left off and we love each other no matter what.
Yeah, you need more of those people in your life. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And so speaking of friendships and relationships, I bet, you know, being in your industry that you probably meet people along the way that want to be friends with you because you're on TV, or, you know, how do you sort of weed through the people that genuinely want to connect with you and the people that are sort of sycophants?
It's a tough one because, you know, when you've got lots of people banging on your door just wanting to say, hey, how you going? I really like this, really like what you did, I love your show. It's, you know, it's nice to hear. And it's pretty easy. If this person likes me and thinks I'm awesome and maybe laugh, well, let's go and have a beer with them. Why not? But sometimes they can be real freaks and show up in your dressing room late at night and
seriously,
and try on your clothes and and wait outside work at your car just because they thought we were best friends. And I've had a few freaks, as I'm sure a lot of other people have in the TV industry over the years. But I mean, I think you just got to trust your gut feeling. And something you said then pricked up in my ears, made my ears prick up was, you know, you need to see if people have got your best interests at heart. Yeah, or do they just want to hang out with you and say, look who my friend is, you know? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think, you know, you come across those people in any industry. You know, you could just be anybody and you have people that become enamored with other people, and it's not a genuine connection and a genuine friendship. But I think it is about, you know, like I know when I have had a great interaction with someone and I feel good about myself and I feel like we've both, you know, energized each other, or you come away just feeling like, oh, that was so good. Like, can't wait to do that again.
We're not chained to certain people in our lives. Yeah. And that's something that it took me a long time to realize that. But I mean, I've got friends who I'm still friends with from school, and we catch up. And it's just like it was yesterday. We still give each other just as much shit as we used to.
Yeah.
But there's some people from school and I just have no interest in catching up with whatsoever. But, you know, after being on TV and radio, years later, like 20 years later, they start sending you messages. Hey, you punched me in the face out of the blue. Why would I want to talking to you now. That doesn't make sense. This is Cobra Kai. This is real life. Leave me alone.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's not Drazik, is it?
No. What's Drazik?
From Heartbreak High.
Oh, right. I've never seen Heartbreak High. Is that
What?
what's his name?
How do you call yourself in a...
Pappas or whatever his name?
No, what is his real name?
Pappas, the hairdresser in Brisbane. He's Aussie
Alex
actor.
Dimitriadis.
Yeah, Alex Dimitriadis. I knew there was a Dimitri in there.
But Drazik was somebody else. Callan Mulvey?
Yeah, never got into that show.
Yeah, you're probably just a little bit... I was like the exact perfect age when it came out. Yes.
High, indeed.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. And so what about managing then the highs and the lows of the industry? Like in terms of, when things are really good, they're probably really good. And then when things aren't going so well, how do you manage that?
I reckon it's probably about, with me, I'm a big self-promoter, and a lot of people see that as something that's ugly and your agent should just do it. But my version of self-promotion isn't just, saying how great I am online. It's like, building relationships with other people in the industry. And that's a version of self-promotion. And I think the more great relationships you have with people in the entertainment industry, depending on what avenue you want to work in, the easier it's going to be. And most of the jobs I've got my whole career is because I've built up these relationships with people, and they've decided that I was a great guy and easiest to work with, not necessarily the most talented, but I've got the job because I've got along with them. And I guess that's probably part of the reason why I've worked on Big Brother for 21 years or around it, is because people knew that they could count on me, and I was going to be a person that they could work with.
Well, maybe that's something for people to take away, thinking about people wanting to come into the industry and probably
relationships.
Yeah. And making sure
that's experiences as well. It's not just like, hey, I get to hang out in your office for half an hour now we're friends. It's like, it's someone you want to work with. Maybe you scored some free tickets to a big event or a concert. Why not invite them and see what they're like and see if you get along, and maybe they'll figure out that they like you and a job comes up. Don't ever ask for work. You just got to make sure that you're within pointing distance, so you're the one that they choose.
I like
trying not to come up with being desperate is a special art to that, I think, because no one wants to hire desperation. Yeah.
And I think probably, that's a really good advice as well, because, for a lot of people in the industry, I was talking with Michaela Bannis I had on the show last season, and she was talking about, she gets steady work. There's no question that, things just get given to her. But she said at the same time, the last 7 or 8 auditions she went to, she hasn't gotten. So it's really easy to sort of choose to look at that in a really negative light and think, wow, I'm just like going hit after hit after hit. I'm not getting anywhere. And if she didn't have all of that other steady work coming in, I think that would be a really tough place to be in. And
try new things.
Yeah.
You gotta try new things. Like I wasn't getting any acting auditions for a long time. And I think it was because of the Big Brother stigma, and everyone's like, oh, he's the reality TV guy. So I changed my name from Mike Goldman to Michael Aaron Goldman. And my acting agent did all these new photos, all these serious sort of party photos, and everything on my reel was all serious acting roles. 3 in a row. Next 3 auditions I got straight away, because casting agents, they had no idea. They're like, so who's this Michael Aaron Goldman? We haven't seen him. Oh, he looks a little bit older. Can we see him? Yeah, seen him. And I went in there, and normally I'm like Mr. Excitement, like, hey everybody, how you doing? What are we auditioning for? This is gonna be fun. I really want to do this job. Cool. Yeah. Probably a little bit desperate. And they and the new Michael Aaron Goldman would go, hey, Michael Aaron Goldman here for the audition. Yes, I'll just sit over here. Thanks. I go in there and I put on my American accent, and they just got the job.
Wow. Amazing. Well, speaking of
Yeah.
American accents, you have, are we talking about, your project that you got going on at the moment that we chatted about on the phone? Oh, yes, we are, because it's been released. Okay.
Yeah, it's top 10 iTunes at the moment.
That's right. So speaking of American accents, you have released or you're involved in a movie at the moment, which is what number in the box office?
It was last week. It was #1 sci-fi movie on iTunes, and it was top 5 for iTunes overall. It's called Monsters of Man, and shot in Cambodia and New York, and it's about a secret CIA operation to use these high-tech robots to kill all the drug lords. And the Golden Triangle is like a test for this new technology, and they stumble across a whole heap of young doctors abroad. And yes, chaos ensues.
Amazing.
I was lucky enough to shoot a couple of little scenes in New York and be a part of that movie, which was huge. And I'm good mates with the director, and I've been pushing him for years to make a feature film. And I read a couple of his scripts before that, and then all of a sudden he pulled this robot movie out of nowhere called Monsters of Man, which is just smashing it. It's doing so well, which he funded completely himself, and worked with his wife and his kids on it. Like his daughter sings some of the music on it, and Jordan Toya, his son, like even was dressed in the greens, being some of the robots in the green suit, I think. Mark Toya, and if you go to toya.com, you can see a lot of his incredible work, and I think you're going to be hearing about a lot more about him in the future.
Wow, amazing. What a great experience.
Yeah, it was really cool. But I've been, like I said, I've been acting since I was a kid, and little roles here and there, and I've been running a film festival at Sanctuary Cove on the Gold Coast for the last 7 years, and we just launched a streaming service called sanctuaryfilm.com, which is all of the films that go in film festivals. It's a sanctuary for them to hang out and play their films so people can see them when the film festival's over, because not everything gets picked up through Netflix. So this is a place where you can still see some of those gems.
Amazing. There's a bit of interference happening there with the mic. I don't know what, it sort of like sounds like some paper went over it or something.
Oh, really? You want me to say that again?
Pardon?
Can you hear me now? Is that all right?
Oh, now it's a bit muffled.
It's because of this. I think my other ear pod was over there on the table.
That's better. It just sort of like went muffled.
I've still got this one going.
Nice. Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
And so what about, you're also involved with the Australian Online News. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Australian Online News has been going for about 14 years, and it's basically like Apple News or Google News. It's a news aggregation service, but Apple and Google just have a national news service, but Australian Online News has 200 local services. So we've gone hyper-local. If you go to Bundaberg Online News or Gold Coast Online News, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, you get a feed of all the latest stories, whether it's from local newspapers or community groups, the SES, emergency services, local councils, local football clubs. It's just a constant feed of all the news, and the most up-to-date ones are on the right side of the page, and also the most trending ones are there as well. And we built it into a local service for communities to be able to get all of the news all the time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And did you do some presenting as well?
Yeah. So I am working on that as a presenter. And like today I did an interview with a guy by the name of David Moore, who, I don't know if you remember 10 years ago during the Queensland floods, one of the most iconic pieces of footage was a restaurant floating down the river and smashed into a bridge. And that was his restaurant. And so on the 10th anniversary, we just did a little interview about that. And we've got a newsreader here, Christy Johns, who's doing news updates every day, and a couple other journalists putting out stories. But we've got a few new little tricks up our sleeve, which we'll be launching in the next couple of months. So now the 200 network is there and ready, we've got another little trick up our sleeve that will be launching very soon.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Watch this space.
Nice. And what else is coming up for you in 2021, presuming Brisbane is allowed to leave the house again?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is obviously a big focus for me. Big Brother is coming up in June, and that'll be 3 months of fun shows around the next series. I'm looking forward to that. A wedding, looking like we might get married in August.
Amazing.
Which, well, we were talking about it the other day, and like, I don't know, man, this COVID thing. I don't want to put all of my money into a wedding and then lose it all. Not sure. So yeah, talking about that, and but other than that, just a little bit of renovating at home and loving life in Vegas, or Brisneyland as they're calling it now.
Oh, Brisneyland! I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah. No, I like Brisneyland better than Vegas. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it too. Gives it a softer sort of. Yeah, I like it.
More fun. There's more rides in Brisneyland.
Love it. Oh, well, Mike, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. I really tried to keep the Big Brother chat to a minimum because I could have asked you all the questions that I've ever had over the last 21 years. But I'll
You can ask me anything. Did you ever audition?
I didn't, no. I thought about it for a hot second, but then I just honestly, I could never get my head around going to the toilet with cameras around.
Yeah, there were cameras in the toilet. Yeah, that's true. Because sometimes they go into the toilet and they might have a little conversation thinking they're off camera when they're not supposed to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could ever get past that part of it.
What if there was no camera in the toilet? Would you do it then?
If there's no camera in the toilet, maybe, 10 years ago, I would have said yes. 100%.
But the only person, it wasn't like a full room of people watching you in the toilet. It was like, if it was a girl going in the dunny, it'd be one girl have to go and sit there and go, okay, I got to make sure she's not passing notes or writing anything on the walls. And it wasn't something we put on the show.
No, I know. But just the thought that there could be like someone behind me, I don't know. That just sort of creeped me out. I don't think I could get past that part of it.
If there was any reality show, what would you do?
That is a very good
Love Island.
question. Oh God, I think I'm a bit beyond that.
You could get a fans only account making millions.
Oh yeah, it's true. Yes. Who did you have on your show the other day and she made $500,000 in a month?
Yeah, Renee Gracie. She was a V8 supercar driver and then decided that she needed to make some cash, and she just decided, I'm going to do OnlyFans, and made all this money.
Wow.
She's in the top 0.5% of people in the world on OnlyFans, and some of the guys on Love Island are making like 30, 40, 50 grand a month.
That just blows my mind.
What are we doing? Why don't we all just do porn then? It's so much easier way to make money. Just show our bits and get sent some cash.
Seriously, what are we doing with this 9 to 5 business without clothes on? Ridiculous.
What a pain in the ass.
Well, let me ask you then, Mike, what would you, if you were to go on any reality show, what would you go on?
I do like SAS. I'd love to be on that. I'd love the challenge to see if I could actually do it. I'd go on Big Brother, of course, a bit of a hypocrite if I wouldn't go on Big Brother. Love to be on the show. Another reality show, The Kardashians, because I know it would increase my Instagram following. Yeah, I don't know. That's about it, I think.
I like it. Good mix there.
Yeah, cool, man.
Oh, well, it's really been so much fun talking to you. And I just want to thank you for taking time out of your day to come and chat. As I said, I will put all the links to your website, Instagram, and podcast. It is Mike Goldman Live, and I will put
That's
the link.
me.
That's it.
Everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Mike Goldman Live. I need to do more live stuff. No more recording.
Yes. Do a few Instagram lives.
Yes, like I said, watch this space.